Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Crypto Crow. I am back. It is Monday, and I've had a very busy week. Had a lot of stuff going on. I've completely redone my entire office. One of my computers went down. I have 5 that I use for a lot of different things because I decentralize everything. And so I got a new rig and got it all set up, and I figured, you know what, while I'm at it, I'll change my entire office. So anyway, the question that we are going to try and answer today is, can you make $1 million with VeChain? Now, I've been hearing about VeChain left, right, center, all over the place on a consistent basis. Social sentiment appears to be growing. We're going to look at that in detail. We're going to be looking at a lot of different metrics and statistics associated with VeChain, and we're going to find out, what would it take to make $1 million by investing in VeChain right now? So here we go. Now, if you're looking at the chart behind me, this is actually VeChain versus Ethereum. And you'll see back here in September of 2018, we started to take a significant dive in value, VeChain value against Ethereum. But we've recently, as of around May, started pumping yet again. We had a decent pump back in October of 2019 that started late October. We pumped quite a bit against Ethereum, and then starting in November of 2019, so we had a month-long pump, we started to pull back, bottomed out in March. Now, what we're going to look at, because the overall question is, well, sure, maybe you invest in something like VeChain hoping to get wealthy, but why invest in an altcoin if something like Bitcoin or Ethereum might perform better? And so we're going to answer some of these questions as we move forward into this video. I'm going to try and keep things relatively short, if at all possible. Currently trading at 0.008 cents. It's still a fraction of a penny right now, with an all-time high of around 9 cents. So the question is can VeChain get back to its original all-time high of 9 cents as we move forward into the bull market? I definitely believe that we very well can. I currently do not hold VeChain. I did at one point and I dumped it. But I am looking to potentially make another entry into VeChain soon. It's looking pretty promising. Now, another thing to keep in mind, this is showing its all-time high at 0.019 cents of September 4th of 2018. But realistically, what had happened was that it was there was a change, because the original VeChain token was worth like $10 at one point. So they broke it all down and added to the circulating supply, which is, well, currently the circulating supply is over 54 or 55 billion with a B, 55 billion tokens. A total supply of over 86, almost $87 billion, or 87 billion tokens. So what I want to do is I want to look at some of the metrics. Now, one of the big concerns that I have when I'm talking about investing in altcoins is what are the numbers? Who's holding it? How many are available? I'm interested to find out, what's the potential that I'm going to get dumped on by long-term holders. And if I'm looking at these statistics here, whales, basically those that are considered to be whales, there are apparently 24 whales that are holding a significant sum of VeChain tokens. The largest of which he holds 230 million VeChain tokens with basically a current balance of $1.98 million. That's pretty significant. There's only been 6 transactions on that wallet. So when we're looking at this pie here, we're seeing that a lot of these holders, the majority of holders, have been holding for at least a year or longer, which means these people are not likely to be selling soon, but they were also likely into these tokens, into this position, at a much higher price. So, but the thing of it is too, you're thinking, how did these guys bought VeChain before the split? And so, what's the current situation with these guys? Are they looking to dump as the price rises or not? What kind of sell pressure can we expect to see from from these very few wallets? And it's worth watching these wallets just to make sure, if we start seeing a significant sum going to exchanges, then we're likely going to see some sell pressure into that market. But I don't see that happening for a little while. Outside of that, you've got investors volume and then retail volume. Retail volume's relatively low. So 70 million VeChain tokens are being held by retail investors, people that are regularly trading. And then you've got investors. Investors basically have been holding the tokens for up to a year. And so 185 million VeChain tokens are classified as investors. So when we're looking at these statistics, we're trying to gauge whether or not these people are likely going to be dumping on our heads as the VeChain prices move up. Here's the thing. The biggest problem that I see with VeChain is the fact that there's just so much of it. And I'm seeing a lot of use case adoption in the counterfeiting markets. I'm seeing a lot of big companies adopting VeChain, using it to track their products, and that's fantastic. But it's a very pigeonholed approach to establishing a use case for a blockchain. I see a lot of videos where I'm seeing comparisons between VeChain and Cardano. Quite frankly, there's no comparison, folks. There's no comparison between VeChain and Cardano. Circulating supply of Cardano is half of what VeChain is. And on top of that, just all the numbers are drastically different. And there's a good reason for that. Quite frankly, I believe Cardano is a much better project. That's not to say that VeChain isn't going to grow over time, but it's a very pigeonholed use case for me personally. And so when I look at something like Cardano with a large and almost endless sea of dApps and different things that are going to be possible, there's just no comparison. But the one comparison is you're looking at a VeChain being a tenth of the price, but Cardano's at 8 cents right now. So, as you can see, a change over the week, up 1.42% with Cardano, down 1.67% with VeChain. This is just over the past week. So, I mean, in a nutshell, Cardano is obviously score. I mean, Cardano is some of the best technology out there. And once the smart contracts and everything else are complete, and we're really moving forward with the Cardano blockchain and staking and what have you, I really think it's going to take over the market. I believe at one point, there will be some point where my prediction for Cardano, it'll be top 5, if not top 3 altcoin in the market. At some point in the distant future, I could see Cardano truly taking number 2 and even potentially a number 1 spot in market cap. I know that sounds insane, but people have been calling me insane for being extremely bullish on Cardano since its inception. And now a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. Now, VeChain, look, I think realistically it is possible to make $1 million with VeChain. But the question is, what do you need to invest? Well, if it just gets back to its all-time high, you need to buy $100,000 with VeChain. And yes, we do have, you do have staking. So you can stake. And then you're going to get, Thor tokens, and that's all fine and dandy. But I'm not really taking that, 2.51% average annual return into much account when I'm talking about what do you need to do to make $1 million with VeChain. So, the question is, can it get back to its original all-time high? Yes. If it does do that, you'd need basically $100,000 invested into VeChain right now to make $1 million with VeChain. So then the question is, well, could it go higher? Yes, its original all-time high, I believe it can and likely will set a new all-time high. Will it be double that? If it's double its original all-time high, then you can maybe make $1 million off a $50,000 investment, which is still out of the reach of most human mortals, okay, to just pony up 50 grand to throw into a cryptocurrency. Now, this is all based off my opinion and based off of a lot of the statistics and the data that I see. Its cycle low is 0.001. It's up 353%, up 353% since its cycle low. There's money going into it. There's money pumping it. There's definitely interest in this project. And if I were to dive real deep into the metrics and into the fundamentals, into the team, which I've seen a million times on a bunch of different videos, everybody already is very well aware of a lot of the key players of this project. So to keep things short, I'm not going to bother with that. But realistically, if the all-time high doubles from where it was, you can make $1 million off of 50 grand if we achieve that point. potentially even more when you're talking about staking the coin. Now, the other faction of this, or the other element to this, is that with staking and through staking, which I believe is going to be much more popular as this project continues to grow and continues to establish its brand, people are going to be staking this for the rewards, which means they're not going to be traded on exchanges, which means that the supply available on exchanges will, well, let's face it, there's so much available. But the supply, as it continues to go down due to staking, means that the overall market cap is going to be dictated by a much lower amount of VeChain available on exchanges. So, excuse me, as the demand continues to rise, because this is a noteworthy project and one that I think is probably going to do pretty well. So, you know, as the demand rises and the supply goes down, well, what happens? Well, that whatever is available on exchanges is going to drive up the value of what everybody is holding, thus resulting in a much more significant market capitalization. And I think that the sky's honestly the limit. But again, the question is, can this outperform Ethereum? Can this outperform Bitcoin in the same time frames? I think over a longer period of time, VeChain is likely to shine. But what we're going to see is VeChain reaching a point of profitability for all investors and everyone holding it. And at that point, the question is going to be how many of those investors are going to be dumping into the hands of those FOMOing in this new generation of cryptocurrency speculators. All of us that were around in 2017 or even before, a lot of us were caught off guard. We weren't aware of the cycles of the market and how things really worked. And we saw people selling everything at what was ultimately the height of that peak, the height of that market cycle. And it caught a lot of us off guard. And we've been waiting patiently for the market to come back around to us. Well, now there's going to be a much bigger generation of newbies coming into the space who are all likely also going to be caught off guard, FOMOing in at the top of the market, because let's face it, that's when a lot of people start paying attention, when it's already too late. So this is why I believe that the cycle continues to grow and grow and grow every 4 years, because as we learn and we hold and new people come in because they're learning from the expanded number of people that got in and blah, 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 that cycle continues. And I believe we're going to see that once again as we move in further into 2020, into 2021, and we likely peak out somewhere at the end of 2021. And so, you know, overall, yeah, you can make $1 million likely. And it's just my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor or anything. I'm just some guy on the internet. But I think it's going to be possible to make $1 million with VeChain. You could be possible to make $1 million with VeChain with as little as 25 grand invested, which is still insane. It's still a lot of money to have to invest in something with such a huge, huge total supply. So we'll see what happens. And, you know, look, as I move forward into these smaller and these shorter videos, you know, the videos on the projects that get the most traffic, the most social engagement, the most comments, the most likes, these are going to be the projects that I continue to update the public on as we move forward over the next year to 2 years. So if you like this video and you appreciate the content, the sentiment, and what I'm doing, let me know. Now, there's one last thing that I wanted to look at. Okay, so what we're looking at now is on Santiment, which is a really, really cool site that I have been using to establish metrics for social sentiment in projects. Now, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the price action for VeChain. We're seeing the price action for VeChain. It's ups and downs. And then these blue lines down here are social media volume, the number of posts and articles and all sorts of things, typically taken from Reddit, Telegram, Twitter, etc. And it's basically pulling all of this data in through APIs and such. And it's saying, okay, people are mentioning VeChain. And, you know, it breaks it down by positive sentiment, negative sentiment, overall balance, and so forth. And now what we're seeing is, you know, typically for something like Bitcoin or something significant with a huge market cap, everybody's got a little bit, that sort of thing. When you see social sentiment really start to spike, that's when you would start to see the price decline. But with altcoins, it's a little different until they've really established themselves, and it's one of those things that everybody's holding. And so what happens here is we see that when social sentiment really starts to climb, we see the price action really start to take off because people are becoming aware and they're buying into it. That's the difference. If you look at Bitcoin doing the same thing, it's basically the polar opposite. As social sentiment increases, Bitcoin's price goes down because those are used as sell triggers instead of buy triggers. Okay, so moving forward here, these are positive tweets on Twitter. You know, you see this huge spike here. There was a huge spike activity with positive sentiment on Twitter. Okay. So, and you can see this stuff growing readily. This is development activity. Not that it really correlates to price action at all, but it's a nice graph to show what's happening with the development cycles of the project. You notice that they did a lot of work. They did a lot of stuff around March, and you know, with that, that's been starting to slow down, and then we can see the price action continuing to move up. There are a lot of different sentiments on here. Positive sentiments on Reddit. Just a lot of Reddit content, a lot of positive sentiment on Reddit. And then, of course, you've got Telegram. You've got volume, just a lot of data. And I'm just flashing this so you could pause the video and take a look if you so chose. So anyway, a lot of good information. It looks very promising as VeChain continues to move forward. I'm here. I'm going to be keeping my eye on it, and I'll be sure to let you know. As long as the social engagement of this video is where I want to see it. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you real soon. Grow your coins. I'm out.